Good morning, everyone, or not even good morning. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of DOD45. I'm Tai of ArtByTai. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to, first, hello, Adrian.
Hi.
This is the final episode of season 2 of
is that?
DOD45. Yes, because we are going on tour to Florida for a month or two, for a month, but this will be the final episode of season 2. And on today's episode, we will be talking with Seez Mics.
2128, a pain in my chest till I break. A city pace where hate, I hold a straight face to relate. Seen so much, so I stay hushed. Little hope, I don't pray. So ugly, rust on all we love. Let it rain, we don't break. The rape started, whole heart in a heart and look a fight. Alone, no limit.
So yeah, the way I'm doing, the way I was telling, I don't remember who I was telling, but the way we're gonna kind of do the seasons is just kind of based off of if there's gonna have to be a hiatus for longer than a couple of weeks, then that'll be the end of that season. It'll be the next season. And since we're going down to...
Can be like 5 seasons.
Sure, yeah. Very similar to like, maybe we won't call them seasons, maybe we'll call them series, because that's what they do in those, those British TV panel shows that I watch. Mm-hmm. They always have a series, not a season kind of thing, because it doesn't really go like per season. So I guess we'll start calling them series. So since we're going down to Florida, we got a show in Mount Dora next weekend, and then a show in Miami the following weekend after that. So I just wanted to bring that up. This is the final episode of the season. We'll be on hiatus for a couple of weeks, which gives you an opportunity to go back and listen or watch any of the older or the episodes previous to this one. How was your weekend?
Do we have weekends?
I know. Well, hey, so was there anything that you wanted to say before I cruise through?
Yeah, just real quick. On the Mopes episode, I had mentioned to donate to your artists, but I went to go donate to my artists, and they didn't have donate buttons.
Oh, shit.
So what I did instead was, I don't even know why I never thought of this, but I just went to iTunes and bought their album.
Yeah, but do they get the full amount from an iTunes purchase?
I don't know, but still, it doesn't. I'm not being wasteful.
Yeah.
They're still getting money back. But I forgot about iTunes actually. And it's really hard to get rid of iTunes music, because once a long time ago when the kids were little, I bought a Beethoven album, like 100 greatest Beethoven hits, so that they could listen to that while they were doing school, like in 2nd grade.
Yeah.
I can't get rid of it.
No, iTunes
it's been there forever. So that's kind of a good thing if, you want to buy someone's music and it's kind of hard to get rid of it.
Yeah. And then maybe find them on Instagram and say, hey, how can I also get cash to you? Oh, I don't know. Yeah, I think that's a good move. iTunes, I remember when it was the whole iPod, I did everything with music through my iPod, everything. Right. And then you had to actually have the file. Remember, it was like WAV files or something. And then iTunes did something where it mucked up everything. Right. And then all of the files went away. I don't know. It was a nightmare.
Yeah, I remember. But
I was pissed.
I don't really I know Bandcamp is supportive of artists, but I don't like Bandcamp because I'll go and buy
music. You don't
music.
Like their platform.
I'll go buy music off of that, but then I don't do anything with it.
Yeah.
And then if I stream something from there, like the car doesn't really know, I can't fast forward. It's just not very user friendly.
The problem with them, if you don't have all of your music on Bandcamp, like you only have 1 album or 2 albums or 3 albums that you bought from, they don't, you can't download the music to your phone right now, currently on their platform. But if you have a whole bunch of artists' music on there, it's kind of cool because you can just open up the Bandcamp app, and I think you can shuffle all the music that you own.
I guess it's I didn't realize they had an app.
Yeah, it's a phone app, but it's still not it's not as good as I hope that they're trying to work on that to make it a little more user friendly.
Yeah.
because not everybody, like you said, not everybody uses Bandcamp.
But I guess that's also a good place to just go buy music, and even if you're not streaming it or if they don't have the donation button.
Yeah. Okay. So just a couple of things. Seez is newly signed to Strange Famous, I think. And I think Strange Famous now has this. Well, I don't know if I should say now, but it is like Strange Famous Digi, like digital something. Mm-hmm. One other quick thing. Sorry, I just got a notification on my phone. I was just making sure it wasn't. On the Mopes episode last Sunday, I said that he was the second to sign to Strange Famous, second to B. Dolan. Turns out he was actually the first person signed. Well, obviously Sage Francis was Sage's label, but so Mopes was the first one signed. So a little correction there. But like I said, I got that from the Wikipedos. I watched over the weekend. So after our Dose 1 episode, I was talking about the reviews of my movie Darkroom that were on IMDb. It like sparked me to go like, oh, I want to go watch my old movie that I made. So I went and watched that over the weekend, and it's actually not as bad as I always thought it was good. I was proud of it, but then after some reviews and things came out, I started feeling down on it. But I watched it, and it's actually pretty decent. I am proud of it. It needs to be explained to people. I don't have the time to do that here, but maybe on another episode, I'll explain what the meaning of my movie Darkroom is. It is streamable on one platform, but if you like have Roku or any of those, you can just search Darkroom and watch it. Just keep in mind, it was we didn't have a ton of money, and I didn't have well, it doesn't matter. I just wanted to mention that. I watched that. That was kind of neat to watch. I haven't seen it forever. Also, Seez is debuting his album. I think it was either this Friday or maybe it's this upcoming Friday, or maybe the Friday has passed. His album that he's got coming out is called Death in the... Oh, shit. Now I forgot. It doesn't matter. I'll ask him. He's also on Alexander Brown's Glow Kid album. Taking a deep dive into my B-sides. I only play the hits while they're looking for a place to sit. On a track called Irony. He also used to tour with Epic Beardman. Seez, I believe he is from the DC area, but I really don't know. I'm going to ask him about that. I guess I don't really have to state what I'm going to ask him about.
Or in Maryland.
Oh, well, we will find out. Oh, here's what the album is. So he started making this album with an MC named Cubbiebear. His name is Josh. And Josh Cubbiebear, he was like in 2016, I think it was, or something. He was like suddenly diagnosed with stage 4 brain tumor. Oh, yeah, and he was given like 6 months to live. So
he didn't make it.
No, he passed away, and I don't think that they were completely finished with the album. Cubbiebear, and I don't know if I mentioned that before I said this, but yeah, Cubbiebear and Seez Mics were working on an album, and I don't think he ended up. I don't think they completely finished it at the after, because his health declined rapidly, and then and he passed away. But a bunch of people came together to finish up the album. Our boy Alexander Brown, he did some of the final mixing and mastering for it, and so that's the album. I'm pretty sure that Seez is releasing, or he is. Of course, he is. I don't know why I'm saying. I got an advanced copy of it, so I've listened to it like the last 3 times on my last 3 runs, and it's awesome. The last song is the title of the album, and I don't know why I didn't even write down. It's like, here we go. Even in Death is what the album's called. Always so sincere. You were always there to care for us. And even in death, I hear you say, everyone, are you okay? But we don't have the answers. And that's the last song on the album too, called Even in Death. And it's a really cool song. It's a moving track. So I don't know if the album's out yet by the time this episode comes out, but I hope it is. And if it's not, just get yourself prepared to get your hands on it, because it's a really good album. Really well done. All right. Well, that's it. That's all I've got to speak on.
Okay, should we take a quick break?
Let's take a quick break. Which commercial is better?
They're both bad.
Oh, I thought mine was really good.
Oh.
Just kidding. But all right, let's take a quick break and we'll be right back with Seez Mics. Pretty sure there's only still just going to be the ArtByTai ad, but maybe over this hiatus, we'll discuss with some people and see if anyone else wants to jump in to sponsor stuff. I don't want to load it up with it, but it'd be good to get a little extra on there. Okay.
Are your walls blank and begging to be decorated? Are you tired of having bland art that doesn't reflect how edgy you really are? Well, in this day and age, there's no reason for you to not own artwork that is just as unique as you. At ArtByTai.com, you can find loads of fine art prints and original pieces of artwork done by myself, which the script for this ad describes as a master pen artist. But that's not all. You can also purchase ready-to-hang, limited edition artwork, and while supplies last, you can get our new children's book called Beyond the Sea and my new coffee table book, Book of Arms, 178 pages of tentacle-themed creations. Don't spend another moment looking at boring walls that don't reflect who you are. Go to ArtByTai.com today.
Come on. Give it up.
Hey, yo. Can you hear me?
I can.
How are you, my friend?
I am very good. How are you today?
We're fantastic. I am. I shouldn't speak for both of us, but
Sorry, we
All
were
right.
waiting for a while. Our Wi-Fi just gave us an unstable
yeah.
thing, and so we're trying to figure that out.
We've had great Wi-Fi, and then all of a sudden we were just recording the intro, and then it just shit the bed. Like, so if we start coming in like all jittery or anything, you can just let us know. But it should be caught up. I don't know.
It is absolutely not a problem. I know that this was sort of last second for you guys, so I appreciate you fitting me in.
Yeah, no, thank you for joining us, man. It's awesome. I have been listening to
Live. Oh no, the new one.
and shit.
You tell us your new album.
Sure. So the new album, the one that Sage probably sent you, is it Even in Death?
Yes.
The one with me. Okay. Yep.
Yes. Well, I think why I'm getting every time I go to say it, Even in Death, I keep getting a little mixed up because then I read what you wrote about meeting with, when you first met Cubbiebear, and that whole was that a eulogy or is that no, it was about your album.
Yeah, it was sort of I was trying to figure out the best way to do it, and because of the emotion behind it, I've never had writer's block or anything, but I'd sort of been putting off writing anything about Josh until I kind of had to, which is just not something I typically do, and certainly didn't do with the record. So I don't know if you know the guy Storm Davis, he's sort of like the day-to-day guy, and Sage is hands-on with a lot of that stuff, but is big picture. But anyway, so I've known Storm for a long time, and so I said at some point one night, I just wrote down a whole bunch of stuff and tried to tie it together as a narrative and said, do you want this as the entire piece? Do you want like specific write-up about the album? Here's just a whole bunch of stuff, edit it as you see fit, take portions of it as you see fit. And, it's I'm sure you've had this experience with a piece before where because of the emotion behind it, like it's not something you want to sit and look at a whole lot. But when I went back and read it, I must have written in like 2 or 3 sittings. I was fairly, I don't know if impressed is the right word, but satisfied that I had captured everything that I wanted to capture. So I was very pleasantly surprised when they said, we just like this as a whole. We're going to release the whole thing as the write-up. So in terms of a eulogy or write-up the album, I think it's a little bit of both, or a lot of both. And that was sort of my goal. After I wrote it, I didn't want to be like, now I'm going to spend 12 hours parsing out the parts that work for it. I wanted somebody else to do it because I was crying when I wrote it. Like I get choked up when I read it, and so
it's well
that's
written.
What they get paid for too, So.
Where will I guess that'll come like because does the album release this upcoming Friday or?
Yeah, so the release date is January 28th.
Okay.
And as far as I know, it's only 8 songs. We'll have 2 videos for it. One of them's done. I think on the day of the release, if not soon thereafter, the video for the title track, Even in Death, will be released. And I would assume all 8 songs will be available at once.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's in the intro I was talking about that, and because is the album it's done, right? That's the structure of the album, but
Correct.
Is that okay? Yeah, it's really good.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a moving track, and when I go for my runs, I listen to. So I do a 2-mile run every morning, but your album, the last 3 runs I've had, that song comes on at the last part of my second mile. And so I don't, it's not on, I don't have it on a way to shuffle. It's on my phone. So I actually have to to skip to the next song. Cause it's not, it's not in a or what do you call it? It's
like in Dropbox or something.
Yeah. So I push play. So I just listened to it again. So on my run, I listened to it 3 times the last, 3 times in a row on my run home. And yeah, it's really, really good. I was going to say, the reason I had brought up that write-up, because you in the write-up, I guess, so for people to know what we're talking about, you wrote, it's like a write-up for the album. You said something that Josh wanted an album that he's working on. He wanted to call it, was it this album that you came out with? He wanted to call it something that had the word death in it.
Yeah.
But that's why I think I get every time I'm trying to go say even in death, but now I can't even remember what you said. What did he want to call it? It was something that you kind of.
It's so fun, so for anybody that's familiar with Cubbiebear's music, if you're not, I definitely recommend you go take a listen. It's all one word spelled how it sounds, i.e. on Cubbie.
They said I haven't proven I'm either. I say I don't have to. Nothing left to judge me but insecurities and shame. Lust, excuses, or blame. They want me tame.
But he had this real dark sense of humor. And so the original name of the album that he wanted when he was still alive, the stuff that he and I were working on, was called You Die at the End.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You Die at the End.
And so in the write-up, just a little spoiler alert. So he eventually got diagnosed with stage 4 brain cancer. He didn't have long to live. And so he really wanted to pick up speed putting together this album that had been in the works for a long time. And at one point he just sort of deadpanned to me and he was like, well, I think You Die at the End is a little on the nose given the circumstances. And, it was one of the funniest things I've ever heard anybody say. And, to that point, given the circumstances, it was also sad. So I felt like maybe that was not the best title, given, he passed in May of 2017. So he might've thought it was funny to keep it. Sometimes I'd go back and forth about whether or not that was the right thing to do. But I think, and when you hear the title track, see the artwork, I think Even in Death is the right title for it. But,
yeah, I agree. I mean, I like them both, but I get what, I get the concern on that because not everyone that's going to hear it or see the album would understand his humor, like what you're saying. So it might come off a little, well, who knows how people take things these days.
It's funny too, and I said in the write-up, that's the kind of statement that you can't really argue with. Like no one's ever going to be like, no, I'm not,
Yeah. Someone might try.
Right.
At the first part of I think it's like the first line in the song, Even in Death, if you're listening, ask me about the first time I met Cubbiebear. So that was going to be the first thing I asked you when I started the timer.
The first time we met was hysterically awkward. Anyone listening, ask me about it sometime. It's good to reflect. You learn to accept a little fear. Can't eclipse sunshine.
Well, it's a story actually I don't get into in the written piece, and I don't talk about it in a song because I wanted that to be the kind of story I only discuss on podcasts. So I'm happy to go over that.
Yeah.
It's a pretty funny story actually. So in the write-up, I sort of get into how Josh and I were sort of doppelgangers in different areas within Maryland. He was in Baltimore. I was living in College Park, Maryland by the university, but, was sort of more DC based. Anyway, so Josh was the kind of person I thought, all right, I'd like to link up with him because I think that we could, really offer a lot to each other. And there was this mutual friend that we had named Mental Stamina who eventually introduced us. So one night I went to meet Josh and, I was sort of prepared. You never know, particularly at that time, I think it was 2004 with rap and just life in general with people that you're competing with, but also could stand to benefit from interacting with. You never know how it's going to go. So I went in kind of guarded, was immediately disarmed by Josh. You know, he had this great smile and we just hit it off immediately. And from that point, I knew like we would always be friends. And just, you know, as time went on, we became really close and homies and all that stuff. So at the end of the night, after spending like an hour at a bar talking and figuring out a game plan to how we could help each other out, I had this sort of relief, like this has gone very well. Like we're going to end the conversation, like go our separate ways. And there'll be this sense of like, that was awesome. So Josh and I were leaving the bar and like we walked out of the door at the exact same time. And like, that was the point where we dapped each other up and was like, it was really nice to meet you. I'm glad this went so well. Like, you know, we'll be in touch. And then we both started walking the same way. And then eventually realized like it was like a 2-block walk to our cars, which are parked right next to each other. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it was such like an extended, awkward introduction. And, you know, we were both just laughing our asses off. And it was one of those moments that brought so much levity to, you know, I don't want to make it out like we were like, you know, preparing for like a prize fight or anything before we met. But there was some tension there. And then it really was indicative of the kind of relationship we were going to have. So we started to, you know, like if I was performing in an area and, you know, I would bring him on to do a song. In 2006, we recorded the first song that we did together called Hooray.
Strange fabrics will make you sterile. Your mutilated genitals are carried away by computer-rated sentinels and buried in clay. Obscure the little people with big words.
That's actually on the album. And as time went on, we would tour together. We did a lot of shows. We just, you know, got to the point where like we would hang out, you know, watch football or something. He was a bartender. And so I would go, you know, hang out at his bar. And we made a lot of songs, and there was always sort of this, hey, we should do a record together. But there was never like this. I think if, you know, I know Josh had a good relationship with Strange Famous, and I think at some point I had mentioned to them about doing the record, but only after Josh had been diagnosed. I think if somebody had come to us and was like, we'll put this record out, give it to us in 18 months, we would have had it done lickety split. But unfortunately, you know, the record we started in 2006, it wasn't until Josh got diagnosed in August of 2016 that he was like, we should, you know, get moving on this. So as time went on, his health declined fairly rapidly, and he passed in May of 2017. In between August 2016, May 2017, he did as much as he could. And then after he passed, the trick was Josh has an older brother named Bill. Bill got Josh's computer. There's an amazing DJ based out of Baltimore that I've been friends with for a long time named DJ Cam One. So Cam offered to, and he's just one of those dudes, like a technical whiz that can step in and figure things out. So he said, if you give me access to the computer, I can extract all of the files and try and, you know, figure out how we can make the album work. Because obviously without Josh, you know, and with my lack of technical skills, like the computer was just going to catch on fire if I tried to do something with it. So Cam was able to get all the session files out. It took a long time I re-recorded some stuff, rewrote some stuff. Even at Death was the last song, which is the title track. And actually the guy, you've had him on, Alexander Brown, he did the mixing and the mastering of the album. Cam did the first like 75% of the mixing. Alexander Brown brought it over the goal line and then did the mastering. He had sent me a beat when he found out I was doing the record. I can't remember. I think it was after Josh had passed. But Alexander Brown sent me this MP3. He was like, here's a beat I made with Josh. You know, I don't know if you'd want to use it. And, you know, once people hear it, there's just such an emotive, melancholy quality to the beat, but it's also got sort of the elements that you would want for a narrative.
That's the final track, the one you're talking about. It's got feeling like it really, you can feel. It's also helpful when you know the story, and I feel like you tell that well in there. It emotes, like you really feel it. I really enjoy that song. I'm looking forward for people to hear it.
I really appreciate it, and that's definitely it was the most challenging thing I've written. And I've got a big discography, and I've written like topical songs or songs that really had to capture a moment. And so I'd had enough sort of preparation to write a song like that. But I do remember it was challenging to be concise, because like, even with the write-up that I have, even now I could talk for a long time about Josh, but like with any song, I feel like you've got 4 minutes is asking a lot. I think maybe it's like a 3.5 minute song. And how do you really select the right aspects of the relationship to focus on in those words, but that's sort of my job. So I'm really happy to hear you say that. And I think that I did justice to his life. And I think his family members and friends will hear will get a lot out of hearing the song. So that was the last beat that I got, but it's interesting because for people that aren't super familiar with how stuff works, like when you make a beat, there's all the different elements to it, the drums, the bass, kick, all those different things. You could have like 50 different individual tracks in a session. What happens is you bounce those down and you get one master file. The only thing that Alexander Brown had for that beat was an MP3. So we couldn't go in and be like, can you bring up the snare? Can you make these adjustments to the bit? And I almost thought that's good. I think there's just sort of this like finality and definitive aspect of this beat, and its imperfections are what they are. And I feel like that really also added to the feel of the album. That it's not this like spit shined, polished, fluoride all over it kind of thing. There's a lot of like flaws that give it character, and really sort of. I don't mean to like paint Josh out to be like this slob. Like he was like the most like fastidious, like nicely groomed person I've ever met, very clean. But like, I think he liked a lot of sort of a mess to his art and to his life. And I think that that's represented in the music itself.
Well, and even in death, an album comes out.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, that was 4 years ago, but 4 or 5 years. I mean, even time heals wounds, but there's always the pain of losing someone. So it's like I always will just say, yeah, sorry for your loss, and anyone else who was close to them, because
thank you.
It's tough. And fuck cancer. Yeah.
Yeah, man.
All right, I'm gonna set the timer, and we'll get going on some chat. Wouldn't it be funny if the timer, even if this cheap ass timer somehow suffered your?
If you turn the timer around, it says you are not connected to Wi-Fi, and we know we've got a big problem.
Yeah, I have noticed. I was going to mention it the first part of our intros, and you're like, okay, I'm really going to try to stick to the timer thing, because the last like 3 episodes, the very first time we went over the 45 minutes was with Slug and Dibs, and I was just feeling really bad. And then ever since, like they've been getting incrementally longer and long. I love the music that you guys make. That if I'm going to be 100% honest, I didn't know a lot of your music. It's on my
most people don't.
I'm in. I'm after Sage sent me the email and everything. I've been listening to it. I'm in all the way. I love it. So I fall in love with the music that you guys make. Oh, that's mine. Just hit that. Yeah, that button down there at the bottom that says stop video.
Okay, sorry.
But yeah, so I start talking to people, and I'm like, I want them to keep talking, but then I start remembering people's attention span these days are very.
I got 2 small children. Tell me about it.
Yeah, no kidding. How old are your kids?
So, well, just to loop back for a second. So I've been listening to your podcast for a long time, and it's funny, like one of the first interviews I think you did was with Sage, if I'm correct. It was like the second interview. And so I've hosted a podcast before, and I totally feel you on the, we're going to do this in this box. And then once you start having fun, the cardboard box, the walls get knocked down. I'm not in a huge rush, but I completely respect your guys' time too. So, but to be on here with the names, the people that you've interviewed is definitely an honor. And I'm flattered by the kind words that you say about the music. So my wife and I have 2 small children. Our daughter is 4. She'll turn 5 in September. And our son is 2.5. He'll turn 3 in March. So they're, almost to the day, 18 months apart. And it's funny because our daughter's pretty tall, but our son is huge. Like he's tall, skinny, but people see him and they're like, oh, I didn't realize you had twins, so.
Well, yeah, that's, I don't know, for some reason when I hear people who have young kids, I don't know. I get it. I don't know. I get connected. I'm like, right? I like that. I know what it's like to go through that time when like ours are, pretty are not old, but 15 and
They're older.
they're older. And I remember, and I do miss that time of that 4-year-old. I don't know if I said this. Sorry. The timer's been started. Sorry. I guess
It's all good.
I have to say that for some reason. My OCD won't allow me.
You got to start your own timer up here.
Yeah. But yeah, I miss those times when the kids were sweet, and our kids are still kind of sweet, but I do miss that sweet.
That's a hard time though.
That's true.
There's a time of not a lot of sleep and a lot of negotiations.
Well, it's funny, I'm sure you guys are at a stage where like it's like calculus in terms of the negotiations that you do. But now, because they're 18 months apart, we had just gotten our daughter like on a sleeping pattern, and then our son was born, and that took like 6 months. I've talked to some people that it takes a year, maybe longer than that, just to get them to sleep in a regular pattern, particularly at night. And so, but that was when they couldn't really talk and communicate like, fuck you, love you. And then now like our daughter is just, whip smart, she gets all that from her mom. Like she's so good at negotiating, and our son is good at negotiating in a different way. And that he's just like, I'll just make this as difficult for you until I get my way, But I think that, it's so interesting to your point about like that stage that they're in, watching them learn how to problem solve and their development, in terms of as they grow physically and their ability to speak and all that stuff. And I just think, man, we're in trouble when these kids are teenagers because they're so smart, so like able to read the room and our body language and, what mood we're in. So, but it's the best. It's so much fun.
That part where they start, especially these days, kids are so smart. Them being able to read the room and understand, and the manipulation that they have is that's some interesting grounds to navigate.
Yeah, it's funny too, because it's definitely one of those things where they, when they sort of get their way after interacting with my wife and I to the degree that we would want them to interact with the external world, I'm almost proud of them. I'm like, I didn't want to give you this like third cookie, but like you made your case, you you did your deliberations with the jury, and like you presented a solid argument, so I'm happy to give it to you. So
how is it during the pandemic with kids that little?
So,
like your little boy hasn't even probably been out in the world.
We got, we're so lucky in that. So, I have a full-time job and I interact with people, I'll be 43 in March. So like a lot of my friends are the same age. So their kids are sort of maybe like a year or two ahead of ours, but they're not in high school.
Right.
So I would talk to people whose kids were in high school. My wife has a huge family, a bunch of them like late teens, early 20s. The impact that this has had on people of that age and like the impediment to their social development, I feel terrible. I don't know what we would have done. In some ways, like we kind of, I hate to say benefited from it, but I feel like a lot of people have had this sort of guilt around. Our daughter was going to a preschool, and then the pandemic happened. Things started to shut down in March. That school shut down. We took her out of that preschool, and that summer we're trying to figure out what we were going to do for the fall. There was another preschool that we signed her up for, and that preschool was like, we're going to do everything outdoors, including, like if we live in Virginia. So like, it's not like, Maine where there's snow like 12 months out of the year. Like you've got, a couple months where things can be challenging. But when they announced that, we thought, let's try it. Like once we sign up, we'll have to pay for it the whole time. But if we're not happy with it, then we won't do it. So our daughter was able to go have that experience. It was awesome. We put our son in the same preschool starting this year. They've done sort of, inside and outside. They do a good job. I mean, personally, I felt like since the beginning, all of the information that we were seeing was that kids weren't susceptible to this. Like, even now, I don't necessarily want my kids around an unvaccinated adult, but I think like the whole like hand sanitizer way of living is terrible because it prevents your body from being able to fight off stuff. So anyway, that's a whole nother can of worms, but it hasn't been this sort of destructive event in their development that I could see it being with other people. Like, once we were vaccinated and we were able to, be around family and stuff like that, my day job, I I had a different one up until last July, but I was always going into an office because I was the only one there.
Right.
So that was easy. So, it really hasn't stunted their growth. In some ways, I think it's been beneficial. I was working a part-time job in addition to my full-time job just to keep my wife is home with the kids full-time. So in order to facilitate that, I'd been working a part-time job, was never home. Once the pandemic hit, I was home a lot more, was able to have more time with the kids. And, I think that was beneficial.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it really hasn't hit us the way it's hit some other people.
Right.
I'd imagine it's been tough on your kids.
Well, they're homeschooled, so
Okay.
they have been their entire lives.
They've been
So
on the road with us since our son was like 6 months old.
yeah,
So they're used to long periods of being
Not having
gone
friends.
and being with themselves and their own minds and their own creativity. So it has been hard, but it's an act they knew before,
Well, I bet also, it sounds like they've had plenty of, because that's the problem I have with, public schools or just watching too much TV and stuff. Like you become this passive participant and don't learn how to problem solve with new challenges, unforeseen things. And so it sounds like your kids were sort of prepared for this.
They were.
yeah, they 100% were. Yeah. So yeah, even when they would talk to their friends, when the first time friends were having to do like learning on online and stuff, my kids were like, see what it is.
See, it's not so fun.
Right.
Yeah, because as far as those kids they thought, oh, you guys' life must be fun, but
Yeah, you're home eating cookies. Nope, mom's got you learning.
That's right. Hey, let me ask you this: how much time are you putting into this football? Because I see your Instagram account and
Is it
So
fantasy
much.
football too, or just watching games?
So I've been following, I've always been big into sports, played a lot of sports, and sort of as I've gotten older and like gathered more responsibilities in terms of work and then a wife and then children and then all those things, I've really just settled solely on watching the NFL a lot. And believe me, like I'm well aware of the cultural, physiological flaws of it. Like it's a pretty I love football. I think the NFL is kind of gross at times, but it is what it is. So in terms of, I think like in my life, like I have like 6 things, like my wife and kids, my job, music, maybe like playing Tetris on my phone. And then like the other 98% of it is watching football, thinking about football, podcasts about football, so way too much time. And it's funny because I would just, I was thinking today, like over the weekend, this is after the divisional round. I was listening to your podcast, like sort of catching up on some of the interviews that I wanted to hear and watching football, like to the point where I was like, oh, that's right. Like I have a wife and kids upstairs. I need to
well, and bro, the games yesterday were fucking, I have been a Kansas City Chiefs fan for a long time. But
get out of here, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. I was a Christian Okoye fan. I played football, so I ran like Christian Okoye. I was a fullback, but I was a big Christian Okoye fan, and so that's where my fanship for. I'm a player guy. So that's how I became a fan of the Packers. I was a huge Brett Favre fan. Early on in the days, I was a huge Warren Sapp fan. So whatever those two played together, and they also put on great games. Sorry, I wasn't trying to go into a whole NFL thing, but
I think you guys could probably talk.
I know, because
we could
that's
have a
what
separate podcast about Christian Okoye. I got to tell you a funny story. So I have, people would sort of bust my balls. They're like, "How long you been a Chiefs fan?" And then I put on the Christian Okoye jersey. So we had some friends over Saturday. The husband is a Bills fan. And so I was like, there's no way we're watching the game together on Sunday. But so they come up with their 2 little kids. I opened the door in my Christian Okoye jersey and I was like, welcome, Chiefs fans.
And I like the last 2 minutes of that game, like you guys must have been
unbelievable.
13
I watch those games alone. My wife was like, if the Chiefs are in the Super Bowl, can we go to a Super Bowl party? I'm like, you can't. No. I'm not. I'm watching that game by myself. And I used to sort of be like, this is what I do. I'm a guy. Like, it's just at the point I'm like, I'm not going to make any excuses for how ridiculous it is that I want to sit in the basement and scream alone, but it's one of the few things that like, it's really the only thing I would say that I sort of ask of my family. I'm like, just give me a couple hours when they're playing to focus.
I think that's okay. I think it's fair.
I do too. But then I go, so I'm a huge Utah Jazz fan. I have been for my whole life, but it's supposed to bring me time away and I can check out from all the problems of the day. But all it does, like last night, I watched my Jazz game after all the football games, and they fucking just can't win when it matters. I don't know, but I go. I find out that it brings me a little more stress than the relaxation that it used to bring.
But to that point, it's funny because I think as you get older too, like your interests, not your interest narrow, but like what you have time to allocate emotion to sort of narrows. And I think that then things like sports sort of take on a little bit more significance maybe than they should. And I'm sure I was thinking about this last night, like when the Chiefs got the ball back with 13 seconds, like you remember the Lynn Elliott game? They were the best team in the league. They lost to a real underdog Colts team that Jim Harbaugh was the quarterback because their fucking kicker missed 3 pretty easy field goals.
That's right.
It's the Lynn Elliott game. Like I remember being a teenager, being like, "What am I doing? I'm shattered emotionally because of this. Like, why am I giving so much of myself?" And I was thinking, I was like, it was almost better because they've had some pretty bad losses over the years, including like 4 or 5 years ago before they got Mahomes. Like, it's almost easier sometimes when they lose. I remember last year, like watching the Super Bowl, and my wife was just like, I feel nervous for you. And I was like, this, it's at times, sometimes I wonder if it's harder to do, like if it's almost easier when they suck and lose. But I mean, a game like that, how could you be mad, win or lose? That was absolutely awesome. And, it's funny, man, because so I was telling a Buffalo fan last night, like, the loss that the Chiefs had to the Patriots in the conference championship game a couple years ago, like there's nothing wrong with getting your heart ripped out and then the next year coming back and really having that in the back of your mind, like driving you to not want to feel that way again.
Nah, in my head, you can console me if I was this. You can console me 1 trillion times. I'm like, fuck you. 13 seconds to go,
right?
And we dropped the ball. Like I'm not technically dropped the ball, but
allow them to catch the ball.
That's right. I don't know. I knew I was going to ask about football because I figured you were pretty heavily into it, but I can't. I don't want to get because I could go all. I really could because I haven't been watching because it's now I can only allocate so much energy in so many places, like you said. So the NFL, I kind of started to move away from after like all my most favorite players played. But I watched Walter Payton videos before every game, before every practice. That's awesome. Gil Sayers and Walter Payton highlight reels I watched before every game. And I was a huge Bears fan from that 72 Bears, 85 Bears, 85 Bears. But anyway, so I am a football fan, but there is a lot going on now that I can't keep up with. I'm also not a huge fan of one team dominating in any sport for too long of a time. I was never a Patriots fan, so that was the years that I started checking out of football.
Well, I'm sure you feel this way sometimes about the NBA too. Like there's so many regular season games, and the NFL has added a new one, and also like, you see the Bengals they're good. Don't get me wrong, but like they knock out the team that gets the number 1 seed. Like, what is the regular season really worth? Is it worth watching as a fan when you could if you hadn't seen a Chiefs game all last year and then you watched that game last night, like were you really missing anything? Not really.
I haven't watched a Chiefs game all year long, and that game,
man,
I'm also like underdogs. I also want the underdogs to win. So but I wasn't so heavily invested that made that game way better for me because I was cheering on both touchdowns, like on the whole. Right. Yeah, that's what the whole point of sports are.
Well, to that point too, then I'll just, I know we don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole on this, but I will say, like, I try to shoehorn this into my discussions with my wife just about sports when it comes to like getting the kids at least involved or understanding the life lessons. Like, you played,
Good luck
obviously.
with that.
Right,
yeah, I know.
I've never met anybody who hates football more than her, but so she hates football and Seinfeld. I don't know how we've made it.
I think sounds like get along.
Sounds like my wife and your wife would get along.
Hey. So, but I try to like. There is something to like. I watch like my kids sort of like pout when they fall down or get upset about something, and that's natural. But I think sports really does teach you like the idea of sticking with it and having grit. And even when like you don't think you can do it within the parameters, just give it everything that you can. And those are pretty valuable life lessons. So,
Yeah.
and my son, when we play this game, he obviously doesn't quite grasp the rules of football yet. He calls it tackle the man, where he throws me a football and then he tackles me. So.
That's fun.
Yeah, I thought forever football was such a huge part of my life. It hasn't been for a long time, but I thought, yeah, my kids are going to play sports. I'm going to go to the little league games. But I immediately realized that sports was not our kids took our artistic side over the sports side.
Well, independent sports, they'll skateboard.
That's true.
Do stuff like that, but
they don't wrestle.
But we haven't been available for a season of a
true.
sport. We put them in soccer when they were little. And I think they made like one winter season. That was it.
Sometimes you can watch though and just kind of recognize pretty early on that that's maybe not going to be their thing.
Yeah.
Nothing against that, but I remember thinking that was going to hurt my ego, because it's like me and my family, like we're football players, like, and we're Samoan, so I always say most Samoans are pretty hard hit. I mean, that's our sport. I mean, next to rugby.
I was going to say rugby.
Yeah, well, yeah, but it's hard to get on a rugby team in the States. Let me ask you this. I haven't even done a Sophie's Choice for you. Let's go with
that's
the
my
name.
favorite part of the show. What an awesome idea for a podcast.
Well, thank you. What about this J. Cole or Coltrane?
Oh, yeah. So I've heard probably about half of the episodes that you've done. I honestly think that's the best one. I like the ones that you do when they're just funny, like Bon Jovi or John Rovi,
John
whatever.
Rovi,
Or
but like you've given me two. I mean, I'm not going to say at this point that J. Cole is at the level of Coltrane, but I think by the time his career is over, I could say he'll have that impact. It's funny, man, because I think there's this sort of like faux, I don't care about being popular and rich, aspect of a lot of musicians. But I feel like people like Billie Eilish and J. Cole, like they literally don't give a fuck, but they know how to use it to their advantage. And I think he's so good at that. There hasn't been a record that he's put out that I haven't like given, 5 or 10 spins at least. I can't say he's better than Coltrane, so I'll go with Coltrane at this point. But
right.
By the end of his career, I could see him being neck and neck.
And in the recap episode that we do with you 20 years from now, then you'll go with J. Cole.
Yes. We'll talk about how Christian Okoye belongs in the Hall of Fame and J. Cole being very good.
That's right. What about this then? Because I think I have used it, but based on the name, Ralph Macchio or Macho Man Randy Savage.
Man, I'm going 51-49% on these two. So I love Cobra Kai. That's sort of like my comfort show. Recognize that like there's definitely some like uncomfortable racism in it. Like there's a lot of flaws to that show, but it's very well written. It's very meta in that they're able to laugh at themselves. And I think they've done a real good job of pointing out like how, Ralph Macchio, his character in the original Karate Kid, he was kind of the bully, he was kind of the asshole. So I'm going to put him aside for a second. When I was younger, my first days drinking 40s, I had this buddy of mine. He and I could do a really good impression of Fabio, and he could do a really good impression of Macho Man Savage. So we would record ourselves drunk as shit, having conversations between Fabio and Macho Man Randy Savage. I'm going to go with Macho Man Randy Savage.
What I think I might do that. That one is a harder one. I didn't even when I was putting it together, I didn't think of it that much. I saw Macho Man in one of your Instagram feed, like lower down in the Instagram.
Where he's
feed.
Jumping down on Jesus? Is that it?
It's him like sitting there looking all stoic.
Right.
And
contemplative. Yes.
But now I'm thinking I loved both of them. But I like the way that you explained it. You said what is a who did you say you did? Because I'm trying to think. What is that?
Fabio.
Yeah. What does a Fabio sound like?
Oh God, I shouldn't have brought it up because I'm trying to think. I'm sure I have like the tape somewhere.
Fabio's the one that the bird flew into his face on the roller coaster, right?
Yeah.
Well, so he was
With the hair.
The blonde hair guy.
The butter guy.
Did you ever see that footage?
No. That's crazy.
There's a photograph. This was like maybe 7 years ago, but there's a photograph of him and there's blood all over his face. Well, they were going up a roller coaster and as the fucking roller coaster dropped, they were going, a seagull flew into his fucking...
Oh my God. I can't believe it.
I think it busted his nose too or something.
You're too beautiful for this world, Fabio.
Right.
I must smash you. You know how he became famous? I mean, like he was the male model for all these romance novel covers.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. He's
Like,
all
what a
over
way
those
to get
books. those sexy romantic books that
good for him.
The grocery store shelves used to be full of them. I don't know if they are anymore, but I mean, do people buy books still?
Yeah, but
You got
not
the
at
Kindle
grocery
romance
store.
novels.
Yeah. So staying with the Ralph Macchio thing, who is the best old school WWF wrestler?
I always liked Junkyard Dog. Like that was the one where like, I don't know. I feel like sometimes people say like everything's racist now and it's not, but like there's definitely points in the 80s where like, it's like, that's kind of a racist character, but the guy who pulled it off and like played up to it, I thought he did a really good job.
Yeah. He had chains and everything, right?
Yeah.
Junkyard Dog. Yeah.
I thought I can't front. I'm not the biggest WWF guy. I could probably go like 3 or 4 names deep. Jake the Snake was. I get like that snake rhymed with Jake, but like, why are you bringing a snake into a wrestling ring? What is it? Is it gonna like? It takes a long time for like that kind of snake to wrap itself around somebody, and the rounds are 30 seconds. Like, what's happening with that?
After he pinned him, he used to grab the snake out of the bag and lay it on top of him, and it was so anticlimactic because like the snake just kind of laid there.
Right,
it didn't really do anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Put like a chicken on him or something.
That for me, that WWF, I wasn't the huge one, but at that time, because you and I are about pretty much the same age, but that time, I don't know, there was something about that WWF, and I don't know, it was, I could really
awesome.
Only know a few, but I remember how huge it was. It was like it was pre a lot of things that now we have to, that kind of took away our innocence.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
Are you a night shower or a morning shower?
So I'm really hairy, and I'll tell you a funny story about. I used to participate in MC battles, and there was this one comment I saw on a YouTube video where the person was like, "I always thought Seez had like a lot of tattoos, and he's actually just really hairy." So I'm a big fan of a 30-second rinse. I recently learned that your pores don't open, they dilate. So I used to say, like, particularly in the morning, like when I first wake up, but I know I'm going to like exercise later. I want to wake up, like hit like a real hot shower, 10 seconds, like dilate the pores, then go to freezing cold, close it back up, go exercise. And then maybe later, like if I'm going to be around people, take a shower. So I would shower like 3 times a day.
Wow.
If I could. Yeah.
That's a good idea. Yeah, the only reason I don't do the shower in the morning thing is because I know I have a workout that I got to do first, and I just don't. It takes up time in the shower, but I like that quick little
in and out, baby.
Yeah, that I might borrow that from you. I like that.
Well, so I have, and I'd imagine from playing football, maybe you've got some injuries and stuff. I have a really bad lower back, and so one thing I really try to do throughout the day is stretch. The best way I found to loosen your muscles very quickly is take a hot shower. So
yeah, that's a good. I like that. Yeah, I like the good morning stretch. I do the morning stretch, but yeah, I like doing the shower. What's the most important thing that you want to teach your children?
So I think things in life now are very polarized, and there's not a whole lot of nuance. So I don't say this as like, just let people walk all over you. But I think it's my wife and I's job to teach our kids how to be pleasant to be around, and at the same time be able to stand firm when someone is taking advantage of that. And that's a pretty like broad stroke macro view of it. by pleasant to be around, I want them to be the kind of person that somebody, as we were talking about earlier, can come to and say, I'm faced with this situation that there isn't like a manual how to deal with. There isn't a lot of precedence for this challenge that I'm facing. Can you help me with your critical thinking skills, talk through this and figure out a way how to get through that? Be the kind of friend that people come to for those kind of things, and also be able to do that for themselves. So, I see sometimes out in public, like, kids that are just acting nuts, and you can't blame the kid. Like they're
Right.
just doing sort of what naturally comes to them. And I try not to be too judgmental, but like, looking at a parent thinking, you're not doing that kid any favors, like giving into everything that they want, or like not
Right.
checking them when they're acting up. Because when they're 20, like, and someone punches them in the face, like they could have avoided that with a life lesson when they were like 6,
Who was that we were talking? I think it was Dose. That was
Yeah.
what's so funny.
What is this energy? Oh, he hasn't been punched in the face.
So I asked for an animal. You said a monkey, so that's what I'm drawing. But why a monkey? You also said you famously hated cats, so he didn't kill this cat. He's just holding a cat skull.
A cat
Someone
skull.
else killed it.
Yeah,
And then he
someone
killed it. It's like, here's your trophy.
But why? Any particular reason why a monkey?
So, I definitely, I like intelligence, respect it. And I also like a little like humor and mischievousness. And I feel like nothing encapsulates those qualities like a monkey. I thought octopus, although I don't think octopus or octopi, whatever, are particularly funny, but also like I've eaten octopus. I feel terrible to say I will continue to eat octopus. Like I'm definitely a meat eater. So I'm not sure I'd ever eat a monkey. So I don't want to be a hypocrite. So I wanted to go with the monkey.
First time I saw someone eating a monkey was on that Faces of Death movie.
Where they were eating the brains?
Yeah.
I never saw it, but they're at it's like a dinner party, right?
Yeah. It's pretty gruesome. I only saw that when I was, in elementary school. So that's how long that stuck. I can picture that head, the monkey spinning its head around screaming and.
Oh, the monkey was alive while they were eating it?
Yeah. They crack it open while I know it's awful.
Damn, dude.
There you go. There's something to take home with everybody.
Right. Glad I didn't watch. It was always weird to me when I was definitely I remember like RoboCop, the scene where like the guy like initially like gets shot and die. If you've never seen it, don't. Like it's horrifying. And I remember being 9 and be like, I don't want to see this. I'll never forget it. And when people were like, let's watch Faces of Death, I was like, dude, like, let's go look at a fucking tree. Like I'm like 11. I don't want to do that.
I'm wondering, I've never seen RoboCop. I wonder how well they forecasted the future with like, because now we have like robot dogs and.
Well, that's the scary part when you think of Ed 209. That was the robot that they built that like said drop your weapon, and people, like it was not a good thing.
Shot up the boardroom.
Yeah, that's right. That one's drop your no, that's what he's fuck it.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
So because I was thinking, I guess you DC or Marvel.
There was a point when I was a kid, and I remember having like a real thick book of Fantastic Four comics, and I remember like plowing through that and thinking like, this is going to be my new shit. And maybe like that's when I got into like actually playing sports and not just like collecting baseball cards. I've always appreciated comics, and I think I'm going to do 2 things when I'm old and senile and in a nursing home. I'll finally get into watching baseball, because I won't have much else to do, and I'll read a lot of comic books, but comic books just not something I ever allocated a lot of time to. Which one do you go with?
Mine's based on movies. I go Marvel. I didn't do comic books at all. Most people think I would have been, but
I'm surprised.
Yeah, no, I was. I every once in a while I would get like a zombie comic because of the drawings in there, but yeah, I never did comics. So I just go Marvel because I like the Marvel movies. I mean, they're corny. And
I'll say as a writer,
fun.
And I'd imagine too, as a, the visual artist, as a writer, and, back to what I was saying, like writing even in death, where like, you don't have, 12 paragraphs to explain a narrative. In comics, the way that they're able to encapsulate a lot of narrative in like 4 or 5 dialogue bubbles is always super impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, I always liked them. People are always like, "Well, you should have drawn comics." I don't have the patience to stick with one character. I want to move on to a whole other drawing. So it was never. What about Kid and Play or Cold Play?
Man, just, we were talking about sort of our comfort things. Coldplay, like just, they got one steez and they do it well. Maybe not even well, but like they have one steez. If you want that sort of like sappy, like light beer, Saturday afternoon kind of music, Coldplay is that. Kid and Play.
Almost the same thing.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because were they really, I guess not. And I'm going to play myself because I'm sure that there was a better example of this. But were they one of the first multimedia hip hop artists? Like when they made House Party, like they sort of parlayed their fame as musicians into a movie. Like I don't know if that was before or after Orderlies.
Did Fat Boys movie? Do you remember that when they were
They had to be before that. Orderlies had to be first.
Yeah, Orderlies. Yeah. But they didn't, but that wasn't as popular as like when House Party came out.
Right.
They didn't make that into like a whole thing. Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting though. Maybe they were the first
like Fresh Prince. I wonder if somebody was like, hey, like look at House Party. Let's turn Will Smith into a star.
Yeah. Well, they should have passed on that. Just kidding. I don't know.
They're doing a reboot of that. Have you seen it? But it's a lot more like, it's not like this sort of like clown show that the original one was. It's more look at like the macro socioeconomics and stuff.
Well, my kids are watching it now. The old fresh,
the old one.
I was curious. I was going to ask you, do you play instruments? Because I was listening to your album, your latest album that's on Spotify.
Rap is a bad biz if you want to have kids. Storm hit me up, said you want to go digi. My daughter's sitting up and she's growing so quickly. We're going to need that signing bonus in cash.
Yeah, you'll never make a dime off this deal.
I'll do it anyway.
Do you play like guitar and stuff? Because there's some guitar and...
Yeah, well, so the album's called Live Long Enough to Learn. That was actually the first release that I had on Strange Famous Records. So that, record will definitely always hold a sort of special place in my heart. And it's funny, the song you're referring to is called The Beginning of the End.
Fix the uncontrollable notion that the problem cannot be fixed, even though the solution is brutally obvious. I point it out, but I'm in no mood for argument, nah.
Yeah.
And that's the first song I did with Sage, if I remember correctly.
Is he on? It doesn't show him on there, but I'm like, that's Sage's voice on that. Unless you guys sound really similar.
I just did an impression of Sage, and even though it's on his album, it's on his record label. I never told him that I completely just did a mimic.
Oh, so that's you?
No, it is Sage.
Okay.
I was being facetious. No, it's funny when as I mentioned, like I'm not the most patient person to begin with, particularly with technology. So I started writing rhymes when I was like 13 or 14, and big up to, if you guys are familiar with Homeboy Sandman, there's a guy that's done a lot of production for him that goes by Deep of Two Hungry Brothers, a production duo. Deep is the guy that got me into rhyming. So, at a pretty young age, I really took to freestyling and writing raps and stuff like that. And I always thought I should sit down and like learn how to make beats. And then like the first time, like I threw a 4-track against the wall because it wasn't working. I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna mess with an MPC. There's a lot of musical talent in my family. I have none, and I'd love to sit down, like when my kids get older and show an interest in an instrument, like sort of, if my daughter's getting a piano lesson, like sort of sidle up to the teacher and be like, can I learn too? The song that you're talking about, very cool guy named Cool Poindexter had sent that beat to Sage. There's a live guitar in it. I think he's actually playing it. Maybe it's sampled. I can't remember exactly, but I've never played an instrument. I think I'd like to learn how to make beats, but just never got around to it.
Let me hit you with some of the other staple things. The new one,
Sure.
the new 3 ones. Timer just did go off, but I'm going to keep drawing for a minute, and we'll start angling towards getting some things
our
wrapped up.
descent.
Yeah, into our descent. But we are still going to land on the tarmac. So
I hope so.
Maybe if they release that 5G, you might not.
Right.
well, I know. So the useless knowledge. I like to share some random useless factoid.
Oh yeah.
Does anyone here know how Evel Knievel got his name?
No.
So he came up with it after spending the night in jail back in 1956 for reckless driving, and in the cell was a man named William Knaufel, and he had a nickname, Awful Knaufel. And the morning that Evel Knievel got out of jail, he was like, I'm going Evel Knievel.
That's
They
amazing.
probably were in the drunk tank and laughing about this.
Yeah. So much cooler than Knaufel.
I know, awful Knaufel.
But
Dude, I mean, yeah, no disrespect to any Knaufels out there, but are there any Knaufels out there?
right. Do they like waffles?
When you hear, just on the set, when you hear certain words, will your mind immediately start twisting them into rhymes or like into a freestyle? Does your mind take off in that way at all?
So it's funny because I was so heavily influenced by so many of the people that you've had on your show. So I always thought Slug and Sage were so good at rhyme patterns that were kind of obvious, but nobody else had used. And I don't mean obvious, like it was just like, you could tell like they were like driving like to their next show or something like that and like passed a road sign and saw something. We're like, oh, like that, to your point, like when your brain's working along those lines. And so I definitely did that, particularly I would just sit and write. I used to, when I was in high school, I took Latin. I think Latin is a great language to study because it's the root words of all like the Romance languages. So that always helped with rapping. But I've really, I listened to the Dose interview you did, and the best rap battle song I've ever heard is Oversleeping. The one with him and Gel on the Crowns Down album. And so when he would do the fast rap and I would look back, like there's not a lot of like crazy multi-syllable rhymes, because when you're rapping that fast, I don't think that's the point.
Right.
And so I would say Dose has been the most influential MC on me, but not in a way that not people like wouldn't expect, because I don't think my music really is like that. But I got to a point in my writing where I was like, you know, if I'm making the point but only using, you know, like one syllable words, that's fine with me too. And so after I got married and like bought a house and started having kids and like really cracked down on my day job, I don't write as often as I used to. But the one thing that I do is when I'm around my kids, when I'm like, it's time for bed, and they're like, they'll start like, you know, saying rhymes back to me. They're like, I rhyme your head.
Yeah.
And then we'll go like 10 levels deep, but none of it's like, I'm not like, I'm preparing to like go on grind time, you know, like after freestyling with my children. Like it's pretty basic shit, but totally. I've got like my little note on my phone. Like sometimes I'm left-handed, so sometimes my right hand is like covered in like cool rhyme schemes that I thought of. So
stop rhyming and I mean it.
Right.
Does anybody want a peanut?
I heard that I was listening to Killer Mike on a podcast at some point. Maybe I don't remember which one, but I think that his stepdad would do that, speak and rhyme, kind of like he always had some.
Oh, that's right.
Rhymey kind of thing, and then Killer Mike picked up on that, and that's how his brain just, I guess, works now.
Sage has alluded to that too, where like his mom. Basically, I think it was his mom, maybe his grandmother, like just sort of taught him how to rhyme, like sitting down reading books. I'm sure he could speak to that better than I could, but that sort of rings a bell.
This came into my head just listening to the album. Pickles or pepperoni?
Definitely pickles, man. Gotta go pickles. Well, it's funny because I feel like Josh, that, you know, sort of like an inside joke, he absolutely loved pickles. There's a beautiful spoken word piece at the end of Even in Death that a woman named Barbara Vandervossen did.
Yeah. Well, then we're in a pickle. That's a great place to be. I love pickles. Hunting constellations.
The two of them were very close, and she sort of has like a jokey spoken word thing about pickles. Pickles are so good for your stomach and digestion. And believe me, I'll eat the shit
like
out of pepperoni.
kimchi or something.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
Is that so? That's how that, because I, you know, like I said, I listened to that 3 times at the end of every round. But I would hear that, and it's actually a really, really cool kind of poem. But I was wondering how the pickles related to what was going on. So that's cool. That
I'm so I actually have a poetry book. It's called Easier Dead Than Numb.
Oh, cool.
And I'm a complete poetry snob. And I remember the first time I heard Barbara's piece at the end of the song, I was like, I don't say this lightly. Like, that's one of the best poems I've ever heard. You know, a lot of it because it's so personal to you, but she's very talented.
Yeah, it's cool. I like the way it's laid in there too. I like the way that finishes out. Hopefully people will be going and listening to this album. As you know, when this will air on Sunday, so that it will have been out.
Oh, very cool. Right before the Chiefs win.
Hey, there you go. Let's do a few. Let me do a trivia question. Then I have a few people from around the area. Actually, I'm going to use DC people, but there'll still be fun ones. Easy, medium, hard, or impossible.
How many do I get?
You can have as many as you want, actually.
Well, let me do two. Let me start with a medium.
Okay. Oh, then you see if the medium's really hard, you can go down, but if it's too easy, you can go up. Good thinking.
You know what I mean?
All right, here we go. What is added to tequila and orange juice to make a tequila sunrise?
Fuck. Oh, I feel like I should know this.
I think I know it.
Josh being a bartender, he's got to feed into that.
Is it cranberry juice?
Ooh,
Let me guess.
No, it's not cranberry juice, but good guess.
Is it?
What is it?
Grenadine?
It is grenadine.
Damn it. You know what's so funny about that? So my kids, when we go, one of the things we weren't able to do because of the pandemic was go out to eat. One of the first times we went, we call it the special drink. So we'll get them a Shirley Temple, but instead of with Sprite, it's with club soda. So I have like bottles of grenadine upstairs. I should have known. Maybe I'll make them a tequila sunrise.
There you go.
They'll start sleeping then.
Right, exactly.
That's right. They'll go right to bed.
Exactly. Look, tired.
What about for your next? What level for your next?
I'll try impossible.
Okay. Technically called feeling brave, but here we go. It's gonna be a hard one. I know it. Oh, well, that's not impossible. Which 3 countries does Mexico border?
United States. Guatemala.
Yes, good. This third one's hard for me.
Is it Honduras?
No.
What is it?
It starts with a B.
Bolivia?
No. Belize.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Should have known that.
Let me rapid fire you a couple of these
Sure.
Sophie's choices, and then we'll do the a philosophical, and then get some final thoughts from you.
Absolutely.
Regina Hall or Regina King?
Regina King is the actress. She was actually in The Leftovers, I think. If I remember the HBO show I mentioned.
Yeah.
I mostly remember her from, I swear she was in Boys in the Hood.
Yes, she was.
And she was,
Yep.
when she takes a drink of his Ford, and he's like, "You better take your ass to the stove with that."
I think I'll go with Regina Hall. She's gorgeous.
Yeah. Kay Slay or Marvin Gaye?
Oh, Marvin Gaye for sure.
Yeah, that one's easy.
Absolutely.
Sam Jackson or Peter Jackson?
Who is Peter Jackson?
He's the director of the Lord of the Rings movies.
I think Sam Jackson, I think he's kind of a phony fuck in that, like, he's got some complaints about things and then does things that run counter to. He sort of can be a hypocrite. I can't say I'm familiar with that. I mean, how can you go against someone who is famous for cursing a lot? So I'll go with Samuel L. Jackson, even though I think he's kind of a douche.
I do too. Actually, I have for a long time, and I also am always surprised that he's lauded for a lot of his acting because he's always Samuel L. Jackson in the movies.
Right, exactly.
Like, he was great as Jules, but outside of that, I'm like,
wasn't he in Shaft?
Yes, he was Shaft. Yeah.
Oh.
No, he's Sam Jackson.
He's the same guy every time.
Always. And people loved I love the movie Django, but like he just looked like Sam Jackson dressed up in old man costume. and actually, I don't know.
Give him mutton chops and it's 1786.
Yeah. I'm going to get in trouble. Just kidding. Yeah. Sam Jackson, he listens all the time. So wine or water?
I hate white wine. I love red wine, but I can't drink too much of it because, like, I don't know if I have like an allergy or something. Like the next day I'll be all stuffy. You know what? I'm gonna go with water. I'm a pretty avid water drinker. Throw a little lemon juice in there. Get the alkaline, the acidity, all that stuff.
I do the hot water in the morning with a lemon, and then hot water at night with the lemon.
Very nice. And you go for a 2-mile run.
Yeah. Well,
Amazing.
actually, I have my hot water in the morning that gets the what's it called? Shit. Your
Sinuses and
your
shit?
body your body heated up, your metabolism.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're not digesting, it's just water. And anyway.
So that's one thing that I'm very ritualistic, period. But like, you know, once the kids are up, they're sort of like, you gotta be present because they're not going to give you the option not to be. So I grew up a lot of time to myself. I get up and try to get up an hour before everybody else, go for like a walk. And I actually like when it's as cold as it has been here, sort of invigorating, but I'm going to have to throw the warm lemon water into the routine.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. It really does get you kind of warmed up. And when you go out, yeah, I love that. So we're sharing. I got the quick 10-minute shower thing, and you get the.
There you go.
Okay, here's 4 more quick ones, easy ones. De La Soul or Souls of Mischief?
Souls of Mischief.
Oh yeah, cool. DMX or Exhibit?
Exhibit.
Yeah.
Plastic Surgery is the greatest collab song of all time.
Is he still making music, Exhibit? Because I haven't seen much of him, but I loved his voice.
So as an MC, I always look at people as voice, delivery, content, like in that order of things that you're going to notice. I mean, I think content, sometimes he was hit or miss, but to your point, what an awesome voice.
Yeah, it was cool that you put that in that way, because of the 3 things, his voice, or you say the voice, the delivery and content, the one he's the least good at is the content. But
right.
Yeah, his delivery and his voice was always pretty awesome. Diggable Planets or Digital Underground?
Let me give you one funny story about Exhibit once. So
Yeah,
I went to see, I forget, it was Exhibit, the Alcoholics. So it was a bunch of West Coast people like on the East Coast, and somebody couldn't show up. And so somebody was filling in. And I think like maybe they were backing up Exhibit, but like the guy fucked up a line and Exhibit just like straight up punched the guy.
Oh my God.
And I was like, yo, that's kind of fucked up. Like, dude's like pinch hitting, you know what I mean? Like, how mad can you get? But it was pretty funny. I was glad he cared that much about his craft. You know what I mean?
I forgot about the Alcoholics. I used to listen to them a lot. I haven't listened to them for a long time. I like when people bring up names that I haven't thought of for a long time.
I saw them live too.
God, I have to go back and listen. It's been a long time since I've listened to the Alcoholics. This one's going to be weird. I always try to throw the people in that I like that I don't feel like a lot of people that talk about, but bus driver or drive-by truckers?
You know, it's funny because bus driver is another one of those guys that I was talking about. Like, it's so interesting that every record that he has, there's like, you know, if you look at like the average like rhymes that somebody has on a record, I might have like, I don't know, like 350 over the course of 12 songs. Because bus driver's cadence is so rapid, he'll have like 1,400. But he's still always, him and A$AP Rock, I feel like are similar in that like they never go for like the easy rhyme, particularly in a verse. They'll always come up with a new rhyme scheme that you haven't heard elsewhere. And I think that's more challenging because of their sheer volume of rhymes. So I'll go with bus driver.
Awesome. I don't even really know who drive-by truckers are. I think they're a country band or something, aren't they? I don't know. I mostly just wanted to bring up bus driver because I'm a big fan of bus driver. I really like how different he stands out, like he stands alone, and I like that. I like stuff like that. Let's all right, we'll go with the your final philosophical question.
Sure.
To wrap you up, so let's get real serious if we haven't been already. Wait, what about this one? Did you have any early TV crushes before I get to the final philosophical?
Salil Moon Frye.
Oh yeah.
That's an easy one, but for sure.
Yeah, but some people don't go right to her because she was definitely mine for a long time. I really liked that show too. Do you do so? What about Married with Children or Modern Family?
That's an awesome one. You know, it's funny because I always thought so. Like when Seinfeld ended, and like at the end of the run, they were famous for like never being touchy-feely, and then they played the Green Day song like "I Hope You Had the Time of Your Life." I always thought this seems counter to like what the point of this show was. And I remember with Married with Children, they would interview the actors, and they were like, you know, like they didn't always get along, but there was a lot of love there. I was like, that totally was not the point of that show. Like they were terrible people, and that's kind of why you liked them. So I'll go with Modern Family just because I feel like they were more honest with the audience about what they were going to be. But Married with Children was such a seminal show in television. I mean, it put Fox on the map. it opened the door for sort of that, maybe not in such a good way, but sort of like not the like father knows best saccharine kind of bullshit, like more real TV.
Yeah, that works so well.
Bundy, you know, you got to get his raps in there somewhere.
I think he's from Baltimore or something.
Is he really?
I think he is, but I can't remember. All right, here's your philosophical.
Okay.
Thanks again too, man, for joining us. It's been awesome having a chat with you.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
The final philosophical question to close out our session is: when you're out driving or you're out walking and you see the one single shoe on the sidewalk or the side of the road, what do you think happened to the other shoe?
Okay, so there's the thing where people like throw shoes up on the telephone pole to indicate that that's where drugs are being sold. Isn't that
I just heard, my daughter just told me this like the other day. I had never heard that's why. Is that really why?
I mean,
that's what I always heard, or someone was killed there.
I figured the kid got bullied, got his sneakers taken, and then they were jerks and just threw him up there.
No, it represents what you were saying.
Really?
Depends on what neighborhood you're in.
Well, that was the thing I was going to say. Like, if we're driving down like a rural street and there's like one shoe on the sidewalk, I'm not going to attribute to like crack, you know, but like, what would happen?
Well, where did the other shoe go?
The other shoe? I would like to think that someone was so inebriated on any number of intoxicants, if not multiple ones, that the way that their brain was working was like they either were walking, holding their shoes for some reason, and then either dropped the shoe and didn't realize it and just kept going and got home and woke up sober the next day and were like, oh shit, where's the other shoe? Or they were in such a bad place, and that's why they were inebriated, realized they dropped the one shoe, realized the futility of carrying the one shoe without the other one, and then just said, fuck it, and just kept walking. My life is what it is.
Fuck it.
Fuck it.
I don't know why that one's a philosophical, but you did make it a philosophical with the answer at the end there about someone going like, fuck it, this is the place. This is
yeah. I think if you infuse alcohol or drugs into any situation, it becomes philosophical.
It certainly does. When I was in 5th grade, me and my friends had drank a 6-pack of beer, and I was trying to make a point. I was crying, and like we just stole a fucking whole rack of Skull chew. Yeah. And we were chewing, and we were kind of like we drank 1 can, 2 cans, maybe drunk at that age. And I was trying to say, like, I'm fucking sick of this. I'm tired of being this kind of guy. So I was trying to make a point. So I was like, I'm not going to steal anymore. I'm not going to swear anymore. So I took my shoes off. I claimed that I stole the shoes, and I threw them over the bridge. And I was like, I'm not going to steal. I stole these shoes, and chucked the shoes. I don't know what I was just trying to make some stupid point.
You grew up in that moment. You know what I mean?
What is so tell what's in the future for you? I guess this will come out on Sunday, so probably right after the album. But what else? What can we plug for you? What can we get people? How do we turn them on to this?
So all of my stuff is available under Seez Mics, SeezMics. I mean, theoretically, if you're watching or listening to this, you've already seen it spelled out. But Spotify, all of those places. I'm very happy to be part of the Strange Famous Records family. You know, I've been a huge Sage Francis fan for decades now, so it was awesome to get picked up by the label on the digital subsidiary. So Even in Death is an album of myself and a guy named Cubbiebear, who unfortunately has since passed in May of 2017. He was a producer MC, so all the songs are produced by him, and then there's some other people that jump on some of the songs production-wise. I'm on all of the songs. Some of them solo. We've got some really cool guest features like Teddy Faley and DJ Addict, but it's called Even in Death. I think it's Even in Death, the title track, which will be the first song, is a very sort of heavy song, and I think it captures that moment. The rest of the album I like to think of as very lighthearted and fun, really captures Cubby's spirit in terms of a sardonic sense of humor, and he just had a very unique approach to production. I heard once somebody say, like, it's sort of like sex, like it was sort of like a build up, and then a huge orgasmic explosion, and then come back down and sort of settle back down to earth. So I always thought his production style was like that. Very excited about that dropping January 28th. My next album that'll just be me is called With Two. A couple years ago, I put out an EP. It was called With. It was me with two other MCs on each song. That album featured a bunch of people from the DMV area. That's available on Spotify. I'm very proud of that record. It was produced entirely by a guy named Scott Kuzner. The second With, which will come out probably later this year, maybe early next year, it's with me and SFR MCs. So like Sage, Mopes, Prolific at the time when he did it, Swell. There's Runt from Jivin' Scientist. So I'm very excited about that record coming out because it's all produced by a guy named Speaks who does really cool work. So, and then at some point in the next couple of years, I'll have another solo album. But everything that I'm doing, check out Strange Famous Records.
Are most of those projects that you just brought up all recorded and just being mastered or finished, or are you still working on them actively?
Yeah. So even in death, you know, it sort of provoked me to get a recording setup at home because I could no longer go to Cubbies. I got a good mic, decent like spit guard and all that stuff. So once I did that, I'd always been resistant to recording at home. I would typically like to go to somebody's house to record. Once I did that with two, it just worked out where the guy Speaks. He's a homie from way back. He sent me a handful of beats and I was like, I want these and more. Let's make an album together. Recorded that. Sage was the last person to do his part, his verse. That's already done, being mastered. The next proper solo album that I do, like I'm still, you know, working on that here and there. And it'll be a while before that comes out. I'm sure Strange Famous is tired of me like sending emails like, when can I put this out? I've got another one. Oh, and I should mention there's a really talented producer based out of the UK that's also on the Strange Famous Records label named Alpheus. And he's got a couple albums. I've never met the guy. We've only ever talked over email, but we've traded songs for each other's album. We have a really dope EP in the works.
Yeah, you did with him?
Yeah. So we talked about, you know him?
Well, I know him from Strange Famous, and the two, I think there's two albums that he released with Strange Famous.
Yeah.
Whatever the last one is fucking
Megalith.
Awesome. Yeah. Holy cow. That is a great, so you're doing something with him.
Yeah. So he was another one of those dudes. Like he'd send me a beat and within 30 seconds, I was sitting down writing to it. He did a song called My Pin Code to Everything off my album, Live Long Enough to Learn.
I'll admit I suffer from withdrawal slip of the tongue. Oops, where are my manners? You didn't come all this way to stare at my cameras. Click.
I did a song called Macro Mirror. It's an awesome video. Anybody out there, if you get a chance to check it out, it's like a kaleidoscope of my hideous face, but the song itself is really good.
From the moment we parted ways, my life's been a larger stage. I gotta say that I'm not amazed. You were an anchor to an albatross. I got to praise the spring shower and autumn haze. I'll erase the dead. I will make the bed.
But so we got an EP. You know, I'm sure a lot of people experience this. I'm way past the days of like trying to tour and everything. I just want to make a lot of music, and it's so easy to do in my basement now that hopefully over the next couple of years I'll have plenty of stuff for Strange Famous to put out, and we'll all be rich.
Yeah. All right, man. All right, Mr. Seez, Mr. C for Cole or Seez for Seez?
Whatever you want. It's your show.
Our friend's parents owned a skate park here in Utah, and it was called Mrs. Seez.
Oh, nice. I can tell my wife. You could call me, looking at this picture, you could call me Seez the Funky Monkey Helmet.
Yeah, I'll definitely get that. You know,
you're so talented, dude. That is incredible to do.
Thank you.
Like in a short amount of time. That's incredible.
I haven't drawn a monkey in a long time. I love drawing primates, but like monkeys. It's always chimpanzees that I draw. I rarely draw monkeys, so that was fun for me to do. And like you know, we connect on football. I love football, so it was fun to draw a helmet.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us, and we'll good luck to you in the album release and with everything in the future. We'll stay in touch, and I guess that's all. Sorry for all the fucking technical issues, but it was your fault.
Yeah, it was that electromagnetic pulse. I'll say for any of my audience that wasn't aware of this podcast before, I mean, I've listened to pretty much all of the episodes in whole or in part. Go back, you know, and make sure that you check all these out. You have a very awesome interview style. I've done quite a few interviews myself over the years, and you know, you're one of those people that I've taken notes from in terms of getting somebody talking I never shut the fuck up. So maybe it wasn't such a challenge, in this one, but you have a very good interview style. You and your wife have great chemistry. This has been awesome. So thank you.
Oh, I genuinely appreciate that. Thank you. Cause every episode I'm like, fuck, these people must hate us. No, anyway, we really appreciate it. Thanks so much. Have a good rest of your day today too. And, I'll get in touch with you, later down the road just to discuss like getting the drawing to you and everything like that.
Yeah,
all right.
I got your number. I'll shoot you a text and go Chiefs.
Word. Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
All right,
Nice to
man.
meet you.
Bye.
Peace.
Bye-bye.
My neighbors used to chop trees, now they just cherry pick. A voice, a vice, anything to be buried with. Comfort in conformity, comfortable enormity. It's easier to die than the death if you've got more than.
Well, there you go. I don't know if it'll show up in the episode, but yeah, we're having some technical issues. I don't know that whenever those happen, I sort of I get rumbled up, mucked up. It's happening to me now. When we have someone coming in, I'll structure out kind of like how I see the conversation going to keep us on time. And then when something like that happens, it sort of messes up my flow. So I'm sure it ended up fine. But if it's whatever. Yeah, it was awesome chatting with him. Thanks for joining us, for listening. Adrian, do you have anything you want to finish up with?
Oh, no, I'm just looking forward to hearing that new album. I wish you would have shared it. I would have listened.
Yeah, it's on Dropbox, so I don't know how to.
No, I mean just from your phone, but that's okay. I'll be able to hear it.
But that's
now.
what I mean.
I
don't know how to. I don't think I can.
You don't know how to lend me your phone?
Oh, you mean just give you the phone to listen to? I thought you meant like share the files. Yeah, because they're in a Dropbox file. But the album comes out Friday. It's really, really good. Yeah, that's the song that's the same as the album is quite moving.
Yeah, it sounds heavy.
Yeah, and it's not like overwhelmingly heavy, but yeah, it is very. You can feel it. It's really good.
I hate it when people get cancer and brain cancer
I know.
and die. Sucks.
Yeah, fuck cancer is such a true thing. It is what it is. Well, thanks so much, Sage, for setting up that whole thing too. All right, Seez, thanks for joining us on the show. Good luck to you on that on the album release. Good luck in the future to everyone. Thanks again to Sage Francis and to Strange Famous Records for putting out great music and always having people that are down to come chat with us on the show. This is the end of season 2, series 2. We'll be on hiatus for a couple of weeks, maybe 3 or 4 weeks. Someone I can tell you that's definitely going to be on the upcoming episode from Doomtree, Sims, who was in my top list. 2 of his songs were on my most played list of Spotify, my 2021 list. I'm really looking forward to that, but we have been talking back and forth. We have a potential date to have him come in. So there you go. Thanks for joining us on DOD45. I'm Tai of ArtByTai. My website is our website. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Go to ArtByTai.com to purchase artwork, to see the artwork, to see any past episodes, and on all of the other social media platforms at ArtByTai.
Drop a comment in the comment box.
Please
let us know.
Who's your football team? No?
Oh, I mean, if you want, but I want to know what it means with the shoes over the wire, because I think that a drug dealer doesn't need to be like, "Yo, I'm a drug dealer." No. Right here.
But some people need to know where they can pick stuff, where specific pickup drop spots are. So it's to mark that. I only heard about that one.
The police know.
I heard about that one later. Many years ago, I knew of the shoes hanging on the wire from somewhere, like someone had been where they killed, or like a gang. Was it gang? Anyway.
Well, let us know what you think it is.
Yep.
Or if you actually know.
Thanks, Mopes, for the milk and cookie shirt. All right, everybody, have a good rest of your day today and a great rest of your time until we're back again on DOD45.
There are thoughts in my head that take place in my bed, and I don't have to lie, but I do that instead. Things that need to be said, poison in my brain like lead.
Thanks for watching this episode of DOD45. I hope that you enjoyed yourself. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. I don't want you to ever miss an episode. Also, stick around my YouTube page for a bit. There's a whole array of videos to enjoy, including time-lapse videos, drawing tutorials, and live streams. It's like an amusement park. Now click that subscribe button and go watch another episode of DOD45. Cheers!